Yeah, we're live. It is 3:36. Wanted to get in early. Got some stuff I got to do tonight, but I wanted to talk to you guys and let you know that I posted a video up today comparing the normal truck intake manifold. I call it an early truck, a lot of Gen 3 stuff. And then we're comparing it to the later Trailblazer SS intake manifold. And as we know, if you're an LS guy or girl, you should understand or you should know going in, especially if you've been coming to this channel. Trailblazer SS is definitely better. In fact, for the cathedral port stuff, there really is no better intake manifold. I like the Trailblazer SS. The one downside to it, obviously, is, of course, that it doesn't fit under the hood of a lot of stuff. So if you can snag yourself an LS6 intake manifold, that's pretty good. It doesn't have the 90mm throttle opening, but the LS2 intake manifold does have the 90mm throttle body opening. But for some reason, even though that intake manifold came after the LS6 and has a larger opening, it did not make as much power as the LS6 did when I tested it. And it did not make as much power as the Trailblazer SS when I tested it. I'm not sure why. Obviously, you know, you have to put on there what fits. So if you have a low hood clearance Camaro or Corvette or something like that, you've got to get a low profile intake manifold so you can get the factory style or even Dorman version of the LS6. You can also get the Dorman version of the LS2, which is better than the factory one. So that works pretty good. But those are not inexpensive. The Trailblazer SS stuff is inexpensive. We're putting them up on our store right now. But again, fitment becomes an issue. But if you're getting a cathedral port one, hard to go wrong with that particular intake manifold. I would even argue that none of them are great, but I think the Trailblazer SS is better looking than the truck manifold is. Maybe that's just because I'm so used to all of my junkyard motors having the early truck manifold, but the Trailblazer SS is better looking, you know, especially when they're new. And I've seen guys shave them and do all that stuff, and you can do that. That's way too much work for me. I think I'd rather just get a shiny manifold and put it on there and suffer the consequences of what would be the change in power curves based on these like fabricated manifolds or polished aluminum or whatever you want to put on there. So what we did was we tested this in the video that I put up today. We had a 6-liter that we were gifted, basically. Thank you again, Mike. And I had to take it apart and put it back together, which was good, but all of that worked out very well until it didn't. And that will be another video. But we had it working, and it worked very well. We put ring gap in it. There was no visible signs of blow by or anything. That's one of the big concerns with a lot of guys. Is, hey, Richard, when I put ring gap in this, will I get lots of blow by? Will I lose power? No, you won't. in the few times that I've done this on the big bang motors, when we've run the motor before and we've run it after and we put ring gap in it, there's no change in power. There was no appreciable change from the change in ring gap. There's no change in like blow by or anything, and no change in power. So you're not talking about changing it a lot. You're only changing it a little bit. I would be more concerned on some of these junkyard motors. I'd be more concerned about how was the thing working before we did all this. I was not concerned about that particular change, but how well was it working? How well was it taken care of? Were the rings locked up in place like this particular one was? And did that cause, you know, ring wear on one portion of the ring, you know, the thrust portion, or was it problematic before you did that? Basically, was what it comes down to. But we'll go ahead and run this. We can run these videos so you guys can take a look at it. So we're putting the Trailblazer SS intake manifold on there. That's Jimmy. So everybody say hi to Jimmy when you call in and stuff. As I said, we did put ring gap in it. We put the low buck truck camshaft in it. It had the factory 317 heads on it. We had valve springs on it from the guys at Brian Tooley Racing. Long tube headers. We had our own 1000cc injectors in it because we would be later on running that thing with a turbo on it. And the Trailblazer SS did require, we put on a manual throttle body on that thing. So we put a manual fast 92mm throttle body on there. And you can see it's all the normal stuff. Had a Mazira electric water pump, and we ran it with a Holley HP management system, and pretty easy to dial in. We had it, you know, dialed in very fast. This was an LQ4, meaning it had a dish piston in it. So a dish piston and a 317 head with the big chamber on there produces fairly low compression. And the thing that I want to cover really quickly on this live feed is I have run, there are two things. One, I have run what I thought was an LQ4 before that made about 400 horsepower. In looking back and in looking at the dyno results from this and now other ones, I don't think that that was an LQ4. I think it was something else, and it didn't seem like it was stock because it made more power than the other ones that I've now seen. And then this is something that Jimmy and I were doing. I was trying to calculate or figure out why is this thing down on power so far? And finally realized it's not down on power. This is probably what they do. That one that made 400, or yeah, made like right at 400, was an anomaly. So I think that it had probably flat top pistons in it or something else done to a milled head, or something or different, or maybe a different kind of camshaft. But it was not this. And on the LQ4s, if you go back and look at the factory power ratings, they were from, I think, 300 to 330, which puts them in line with some of the higher power ratings on an LM753, but certainly in line with an L33, which is like 315, I think, if I remember right. So it's right in that range. So it's going to make something comparable to that. Unfortunately for us, because we, when I say we, I mean I hurt the motor before when we were trying to do some turbo stuff with it. And we'll, like I said, we'll be doing a video on that. But we did not run this thing. We were going to run a stock camshaft in this thing. The stock camshaft in this thing, one of the lobes was bad. So I had another stock camshaft that we were going to run in. We were going to run this at the end of the turbo testing and get our, re-get our baseline kind of thing. So we could compare it to the other camshafts. And so we would have got a baseline. I suspect that this thing, given what the L33 makes in its comparison of the rated power output versus the tested power output, and given that this thing is factory rated very similar to that, I would put this thing at like 370 or 375 or something is what it would have made if we had a stock camshaft in it. But what we did was we compared the normal early truck intake manifold, which we've used that a lot, and you could make a ton of it. You could easily, it's 1,000 horsepower plus manifold, because not that that's specific for that, but you can make that much. If we put it on a combination and it makes 400 or 450 or 500, you put it on a 6-liter combination with a good cam and it makes 500, then it's 15 pounds and you're making 1,000 horsepower. The truck manifold is not going to stop you from doing that. It works very well. It's way better than an LS1 manifold, obviously better than an LS4 intake manifold. Not as good as the Trailblazer SS, as we have once again found out. But we ran this thing with the low buck truck camshaft in it. And then we did our comparison. We ran the truck manifold, and then we ran the Trailblazer SS. And then we did it once again after adding the slightly larger truck plus camshaft. And then we did the test again. We did the early truck manifold versus the Trailblazer SS. And we did that test basically with both camshafts, because what I wanted to show, and what I kind of wanted to find out for myself, because I like having more and more data, but does it change? Do the power gains that we get change as a percentage of what we're starting with? Is it, do we get more kind of thing? So here we go. And then I'm just getting the numbers for you. So run with the low buck truck camshaft and the stock intake manifold, the stock truck intake manifold. We are looking at 439 horsepower. And then when we put the Trailblazer SS, that jumped up to 452 horsepower. Yeah, was that 439? Was the best one? Yeah, 452 horsepower. So we're looking at 12, 13 horsepower gain, which is good. We saw a little bit of a loss down low, and I'll go ahead and we'll bring this up and you guys can kind of see. We'll play those videos here. And you can see I've got two graphs, because we've got the comparison that we did with the low buck truck, and then the comparison that we did with the Truck Plus. So we went from, again, 439 to 452 horsepower, which is good. And then when we did the Truck Plus camshaft with the early truck intake manifold, we made 453 horsepower with the, oh, that's the Truck Plus. Oh, yeah. No. Yeah, there we go. Okay, that's with the Truck Plus cam and the stock intake manifold. With the Trailblazer SS, peak power jumped up to 464. So it looks like around 10 horsepower on that combination. The thing is that the Trailblazer SS is consistently better. It's better on with the milder camshaft. The low buck truck has a pretty good camshaft, and then also, you know, gains more power with the Truck Plus camshaft, with the bigger camshaft. So the Trailblazer SS, you can consistently say it's, or you can say it's consistently better. I don't know how much, I would be curious to see how much better it would be on like a stock 4.8. I think the gains would be less. And the interesting thing is on both of these combinations, we saw at least a little bit more low speed power with the early truck manifold. And that's not really surprising. I think in their quest for more power production that they sacrificed a little bit, albeit not a ton down low. It certainly is a beneficial trade-off. If I was putting one of these together, even if I was putting a 5.3 together, I would definitely choose a Trailblazer SS over a regular truck manifold if I had that choice. And the Trailblazer SS intake manifolds, Jimmy's getting them up on the store now. They're reasonably priced, especially when you can consider the alternative. If you look at a fast manifold, which is better than both of these by at least this amount, it's at least this much more than a Trailblazer SS. But the thing is, it's a lot more expensive. I mean, it's probably $1,000 or more just for the intake. You got to get the fuel rails, and then you're gonna have to get a throttle body that matches that too. That's the other thing on a Trailblazer SS to consider is we ran it with a 92, or it was a 90 or 92 millimeter fast throttle body. We wanted to run a manual throttle body. We had the factory 92 millimeter drive-by-wire throttle body for that, but our setup was not receptive of that. And I don't know what setups you guys are running, but maybe you have a factory throttle body, a drive-by-wire throttle body, or maybe you can get a factory drive-by-wire on 90 millimeter throttle body, and that will work. We're trying to find sources for all of that stuff, just so guys can have everything taken care of. But the Trailblazer SS ultimately is still a lot less money than a fast. Even if you have to buy the intake manifold and the fuel rail, if you're buying a camshaft, you're going to need bigger injectors, which are a good idea. We're trying to find a lower cost version, maybe get the flex fuel injector thing for, you know, so the store is constantly evolving so that I can take care of you guys so that you can get, you know, more performance, but also get it at kind of a reasonable price, because that's after all, that's all that we're looking for. But it was cool to be able to get back down to West Tech Performance once again and do a bunch of dyno testing. I had to do an engine disassembly and build up, which is always fun. You know, it's just time consuming to get everything cleaned up and making sure it's working right. And then as a junkyard motor, especially taking it apart and looking at the camshaft, where the lobe was damaged, I thought for sure we'd see a corresponding problem with the lifter, but it turned out that wasn't the case. And given the reputation that LS motors seem to have out there with everybody's got lifter tick. And so you never know when you put these things together from the wrecking yard, whether or not, hey, is this thing going to work? And so you start it up. And the great thing is we ran this thing and primed it, even though this motor had been run an awful lot. It was definitely a high mileage motor. And I reused the factory oil pump, just made sure that it didn't look like it was physically damaged in any way. And then we put oil in there and you know, we primed it the way that we do by pressurizing the crankcase, but that didn't work, unfortunately. And the reason that it didn't work is because the valley cover, the seals for the valley cover that go over the basically kind of provisions, the standoffs for the knock sensors was not sealing. And so it allowed all our air to blow through. So we just turned it over and it worked fine. Again, because this thing had run a bunch before. On a new one, I would not do that. We would have fixed the seals. But on a used high mileage wrecking yard, just make it work. And it did. And so I highly recommend all of this stuff, you know. Get lifters and well, we didn't need lifters, but the stock lifters work good. The stock oil pump worked good. All of that stuff ended up working good. The thing didn't, we never saw a wisp of blow by out of this thing. I didn't see anything blowing out the exhaust. It was actually, it was a joy to test. Eric, what's going on? Untrue Scottish 383. What's up, everybody? I need a TBS to shave for my LS4 build. Okay. Yeah, we're going to have them up pretty quick. I'm considering a Trailblazer SS with a 78mm throttle body instead of messing with the X-Link. What kind of gains might be seen with a smaller throttle body on the Trailblazer SS versus the truck manifold? Honestly, I'm glad you asked that. It's something that I wanted to test. I wish we would have had an adapter. I don't know at this power level, like this 450 horsepower power level, that the combination is throttle body limited. I would think not, based on the stuff that we've done with the LS6 intake manifold, but that's not exactly the same thing. But I would like to test one of these with an adapter using the stock throttle body, and I'll try to do that next time we have this motor on the dyno. Just watch your last video and now live. Perfect timing, that's right. Richard, how much fuel pump will I need to run 10 to 20 pounds of boost from that precision on the LQ4? Well, you have a big spread there. 10 to 20 pounds is a ton different in power. So if you figure you're making if you have an LQ4 and like this one, you're making 450 horsepower, you're talking about 30 horsepower per pound of boost. So the difference between 10 and 20 pounds is 300 horsepower. That's a big difference in power. So if we use the top of that, 20 pounds as the thing, you're going to need a really big fuel pump. I don't think that the 525 plus that we sell will be enough to support 20 pounds on an LQ4, particularly with the 85. It's probably going to have to be something bigger. 10 pounds, yeah, it'll do that. What's the cheapest way to make 400 horsepower with the bone stock LQ4? Well, just a cam will do that the way that we tested. But if you want 400 at the tire, that's a different thing. Have you done any comparisons of Holley or Edelbrock intakes compared to the Chinese copies? Not specifically that. Haven't you seen a test from today? What's the max bore stroke of a stock 6.2? I don't know what you'd mean by max. There's a lot of things that will physically fit in there, but I don't go more than a 4-inch bore with that particular block because the sleeve length is not long enough. And on a LS2 block, I don't think you can bore it very much. So normally they make a 415 out of it. Do you know around how much horsepower on LQ4 with a low buck truck cam with a 76, 75 on 5 pounds and 10 pounds? Yeah, yes, we can tell you pretty close to that. You're going to be over 700 at 10 pounds. Let me check it out after this. Was it NA? Yeah, go watch the video, Red. Yeah, it was a stock LQ4 that we just put a low buck truck camshaft in it, or a truck plus camshaft in it, and it made more than 400. I'd buy a good quality Trailblazer SS for 120 to 170. Can you buy them for that? That seems really low. At what NA horsepower range would recommend an aftermarket intake over the Trailblazer SS, and which one would you get? it's not really, I don't know that's an NA horsepower range. The fast manifold is worth power over this at any of these power levels. So right now, if we put a fast in it, it'd be 10 to 15 better than this. So if you want that and you think that that's a good trade-off for that amount of power versus that price, you could do it then. The wilder the combination, like the bigger the cam that we put in this, and if we put ported heads and stuff on it, the fast manifold's worth even more. Thinking about my pizza, there you go. That was a great video test today. What modifications could you or would you do to get the LQ4 over 500? 500 NA you could get with a bigger camshaft. I think I would change the heads on it too. I would pick something else besides 317 heads. If we could have put the 799 heads that we ran on the 5.3 on there, and that would have helped quite a bit. I'm trying to cut back on bad choices. Trailblazer SS is the best. Trying to understand when people talk cam talk, what is considered a big cam, from what numbers to what, say without saying the numbers, what's the range? For me, the definition of big cam puts camshafts up near where they will fit available piston to valve clearance. Like if we try to put a cam in this LQ4, there's a limit to how big of a cam we can put in there. So to be like mid 230 duration at 50 on the intake side, that's big to me. It's not big relative to race cams, but it's big for what's available and what can fit stock piston to valve clearance on these kinds of motors. So everything below 235 or so is less than that. But I don't pick the cam on bigness. I like to talk about that, but I recommend and choose camshafts based on solving particular concerns that people have. Like, do you want to use a stock inverter? What do you want the idle quality to be like? Where do you kind of want your power production? All that stuff. Would an LS7 crank work on an LQ4 for a 416? I don't think so. The snout's a different length, I think, on the LS7 crank because it was used to drive the dry sump. I mean, I think you could physically put it in there, but it'd probably be cheaper just to get an aftermarket 4-inch crank. What spark plug gap would you run for a 5.3 with 20 pounds of boost? We turn it down to about 18 thousandths, 18 or 19 thousandths. Willing to join StreamYard for $10, $10 discount if Richard installs this junkyard 5.3 and K member. Oh, so I got to come out and I have to come out and install your motor, and then the StreamYard gets $10. I don't think that's a good deal. I got an extra rec port newer truck manifold that my buddy gave me. It looks brand new. I used the cathedral port one, so if anyone wants it, I'll part with it for a fair price. Has fuel rails too. Those are good. That's like the LY6 intake manifold, and those make really the same power as an LS3. Again, it's just a height issue. Can you run that truck manifold in what you're doing in the rec port truck manifold? Can you run that, or do you want an LS3? How much horsepower with a 6.0 and 706 heads and a 235 cam? I think when we did that, it was around 500 or low 500s. Fast is 1150. Scott, is that just for the manifold? Justin, I don't know what your question is. What heads did you say it was on it? This is an LQ. If you're talking about this 6-liter, this 6-liter has 317 heads on it because that's the original head that came on here. This is an all stock, or started out as an all stock LQ4. So it has 317 heads on it. It has dish pistons. It originally had the LQ4 camshaft in it. Had the original early truck manifold on it, and we ran it like that without but we had already replaced the stock camshaft. I'll give it to you, Richard, for a discount on a turbo. I have a couple of those already, Frank, from the LQ or the LY6 that we ran. How do I get to the store? Ron, go to richardholdnerperformance.com. LS7 lifters are good. I do like those, and we offer those. That's why we offer them. Store needs to offer 20-minute tech phone calls for $30, just like how Tim Allen and Al open their tool store on the side. Well, but you're getting that here. You're getting that for free. Here's your holder performance. That's right. My friend runs LQ4 with L92 heads and L92 top end. Stock 78mm throttle body, comp 469 cam, made 422 wheel horsepower through a 4L80. Swap to an LS3 throttle body and X-length, 0 gain on the dyno. Okay. I'm surprised that the 78 wasn't a restriction on that combination with that much cam and that much cylinder head. Speaking of lifter tick, what lifters do you recommend? We have lifters at the store. We sell LS7 lifters. Those are the ones I recommend. Lunchbox, why are you chopped liver? And that does not make a good pizza. Yeah, Bill, let's raise on a free tech call. 400 horsepower at the tires at the crank. I updated my E85 versus versus 87. 16.4 versus 20.1. Is that fuel mileage that you're talking about, Adrian? Like a video, that's right. I need that late night tech call in the garage working on my junk, but I understand. Lunchbox didn't see it. Thank you as well. Jimmy and I, Jimmy and I actually talked about that, about maybe trying to do something like that. Because the problem is, if I get on the phone with somebody, and this is why I don't normally do calls like that. So if I get on the phone with somebody, it usually takes a long time. And as much as I would love to do that, I can't spend the day like on hour phone calls doing that all day. Not bad for a 250,000 mile Crown Vic. Oh, so that's a 462 valve then? Like, share, subscribe, ring the bell. Ben Strader had an interesting test where a throttle body was limiting power from the shape of the throttle body. But did they put something else on there that flowed the same, but was a different shape? I like Ben's stuff. I'd like to see that. It's cool. First time on here and first time building an LS. Well, welcome. Everybody say welcome to Ron. Came to the right place. See, Scott's already got it. Best channel for knowledge on YouTube. You're in the right place, Ron. See, I don't even know why I say stuff. Everybody's already got this. Scored some 243 heads for free. That's the perfect kind of price. You think I can run them safely in 93 octane on LQ9 with LQ9 pistons? An LQ4 with LQ9 pistons? Yeah, I think you can. Porting the heads now, a truck plus cam, 80-pound injectors. I don't know about porting the heads. So we're thinking that, like, we were to put the 799 heads on there on the combination that we had with the Trailblazer SS. If we would have changed the heads, I'm thinking we would have got 20 or 25 from that. Something like that. I mean, judging by what we did when I compared the 317s to the 706s, that's about what we got, was 20 or so. So I'm thinking we would have got that from the head swap. Now, porting them, you would get even more. Yeah, Scott, you don't need big stuff for the turbo. Watch this video and pretty much built one close to a build. He is done with an Aces LS swap jackpot system. Server Jag, what's going on? First live stream, Jeffrey, welcome. You don't care about piston skid life, you can go 425. Piston, I'm sure that's supposed to be skirt life, but you can't bore an LS3 block to 4125 without sleeving it, I don't think. Got the reel-to-reel going again. Yeah, that's right. Here we go. Push that. I'm sorry. I should just. I need to figure out a way to have that on repeat. 317 heads. Got the we had Brian Tooley springs on this thing so that we could kind of see the power curve differences. Wall. I spelled it incorrectly. Yeah, that's fine. Trailblazer SS intake manifold require a different throttle weight. It does. We ran a 90mm throttle body on there because the factory intake manifold, the truck intake manifolds run with the factory 78. Hoping my upcoming engine hits 500 flywheel horsepower. For the price, you can't beat the Trailblazer SS or the Gen 4 truck. Today made my second day of breaking in my freshly rebuilt boosted 6-liter. Man, does it feel nice seeing oil pressure again? I know that is a really good feeling. That's the first thing that I look for when we crank these motors over is oil pressure. When we have oil pressure, I'm like, yes. And it had like the 6-liter had a nice factory style, like rising oil pressure curve, which we like to see. Richard hoping for 500 flywheel, an LQ9, 243s, ported heads, fast. Yeah, it's going to be more than that. Fast and that big of a camshaft. And if the heads are properly ported, yeah, it's going to be a lot. It's going to be mid to high fives. Danny just noticed that the live was on. What do you think about cutting the straps on spark plugs to unshroud spark? You mean side gapping it? So far, I haven't found any power from spark plugs. And we've tried a lot of different things, including plugs that have ground straps coming from the side and multiple ones and stuff. I don't remember trying a side gap one. There was something on social media about this today, but those have been run a lot at West Tech and run a lot by racers and stuff. For me, it seems like if the spark plug fires, that you're getting 99.9% of what's there. Seen HP Tuners has a computer and hardware for LS swaps. It's a bit pricey, but has a lot of options and flexibility. I remember somebody mentioning that. I haven't seen it though. Any 400 to 500 horsepower turbos for sale? Yes, we have ones that will do that little, if that's what your question is. What's the difference between 823 and 826 besides rec? I never heard of an 826 head. An 823 I have heard of. 1150 just for the manifold, billet rails 250, and then a 102 throttle body for that has got to be another 400 or 500, right? So that's 13, that's 1400. Yeah, that's what I was telling Jimmy. I said I thought that when you got a fast, that it was more than 1500 but less than 2000. I attempted to tag you in a short on my new channel, hoping for 500 horsepower stock bottom end LS1. Are you talking about 500 wheel horsepower? Because 500 flywheel horsepower from an LS1 is not hard to do. Factory type fuel rail is 350. Yeah, because you can use a factory LS3 fuel rail on the fast. If your viewers want to comment a guess on the video, that would be awesome. A guess on what, Stang? I just got a GM LS364 for my Silverado. That would be good. What's the difference between the Trailblazer SS and the later model 6-liter manifold? I don't know what later model 6-liter manifold you're talking about. The only other one that I know of is a rec port manifold. And so the difference is that they're designed for different heads. I need to get a new intake. I'll never buy Velocity again. Need low for my IROC. What do you suggest? Do you have an LS or do you have a L98 like IROC standard 350 tune port motor? Is the BTR intake manifold good for top end or low end? BTR manifolds, both their Trinity and their equalizer, are short runner, high RPM stuff. Is a 6-liter better than a 5.3? It's stronger. Will it last longer? an iron block 6 liter or an iron block 5.3, the longevity of both of them are fantastic. You don't have to worry about that. And there's no strength issue. They're both plenty strong. One of them makes a lot more power just because it's bigger. Can an LQ9 make 400 flywheel horsepower with a stock cam, 243s, Trailblazer SS, 30-pound injectors? I think it can. I think that's what I ran before. I think it was I don't think it was, I'm almost certain now it wasn't an LQ4. I think it was an LQ9. In your test of the 5.3 with stock intake and red hot, didn't gain much over the hot rod. Yeah, it didn't. Would the red hot be better suited on the LQ4? Would the intake still be the limiting factor? I don't know about limiting factor. That red hot cam was actually designed as an LS3 cam. So it's designed as a higher horsepower rec port headed camshaft that I think that they also use for some supercharged applications. I think it probably would show better on the bigger motor. 462L pushing 30-inch tires for 20 miles per gallon. Nice. How to soften the chambers? You go talk to a guy that's done it, and they'll show you what they're doing. You're basically putting angle in the quench. Richard, what information can I deem from 8 EGG sensors in the headers? Stock bottom end, CSU E85. Well, what we found, if you let me know what intake manifold you have, what you normally would see is you would see the air fuel distribution issues that are inherent in the intake manifold design that you have. So if it's a single plane or even a I mean, I'm assuming that since it's a CSU deal, it's carbureted, that it's got to be a single plane. So what you'll find is that as you sweep through the RPM under boost with a blow through carburetor deal, and it's not the carburetor issue so much as it's the intake manifold issue, that the intake manifold doesn't give you the right air fuel in all the cylinders at every RPM. And when you find that, it'll probably scare you. Is there GLH content coming? Yes, but I don't know when because I don't have that car. The question, I'm building a 78 millimeter twin turbo 408 stroker wanting to mate. I'm sure that's 1800. So those turbos will do that. I meant the late 6 liter with cathedral ports. I don't know of a late 6 liter intake manifold that is different than a Trailblazer SS. So I don't know what manifold that is. I would have to see a picture of it to see what it is. What's the difference between your truck cam and a truck plus cam? Net results much different on a 5.3. Yeah, we have, if you go to richardholderperformance.com, we have the differences shown graphically between those two camshafts. The truck plus cam is about 15 or so horsepower better above 5,000, and the low buck truck is better below that. Love your videos. Joe Simpson's videos for tuning Holly stuff. Kind of wish you did some tuning videos also. Yeah, I'm not a tuner, which is why I don't do those. I do have videos up on what happens when the tune is not right. So here's what happens at this timing level, this timing level, this timing level, this timing level. This is what happens at this air fuel and this air fuel and this air fuel and this air fuel. Those are the things that I think are important for, you know, determining what happens in terms of power when you have that wrong. But I don't show you how to change that. I mean, it's just a couple of keystrokes, but I don't want to have people think that I'm a tuner because I can't go tune your car that drives on the street. That's not me. Richard, was the cathedral port fast manifold in your test video? Which one are you asking about, Frank? None of these tests have a fast manifold on them right now, but I have tested lots of fast manifolds, and I've tested both cathedral port and rec port and LS7 port of fast manifolds. I know an LQ4 with 862s milled 20,000s and ported in polished chambers and piston crowns makes 512 horsepower and 524 foot-pounds at the flywheel This is a truck Norris cam. So you know that because you did that? Got 2250 into my LSX RT and 102 millimeter throttle body with billet fuel rails, all from fast. That's a lot. Fast intake plus fuel rails and throttle body could be 2,000. Boost would make a good puppy name. I often see fast intakes on Facebook for $750. Really? That seems pretty cheap. Building a twin turbo 408 stroker, making 1,800 wheel horsepower. What pump would I need? I don't know. Are you trying to do an in the tank pump? Are you trying to do an external pump? I don't know, honestly. We use an air motive brushless pump on the engine dyno, but we're not trying to do 2,000 horsepower stuff on that. I got an LSX RT for $650. Their brackets to use fuel rails for $70. I'm gonna reuse my 70 for 92 millimeter throttle body. It's still over 1,000, but I want all the power. You can use a factory fuel rail on an LSX RT. What factory rail is it? 6 liter, 706 heads, 235 cam. The velocity doesn't fit the cathedral port, but I have an 85 IROC. What do you mean velocity? The velocity intake manifold? But I want a low intake to fit under hood, and I have a 2800 stall converter. So if you're asking what intake manifold you should put on that, a fast is the best one. And then you could go with some other short runner thing. It's going to lose power down low, though. 95-pound injectors should be enough to run a 7685 turbo if I did my math right. Yes, on that would be on pump gas. Actually, 0.75 is getting it closer to E85. Wouldn't mind switching to the fast, high ram if I could do it cheap. Because do you want more engine speed, Scott? Have you done testing with nitromethane? I have not. Lunchbox, I hooked up mine in 45 minutes. Cranked it 4 times. The 5th time fired right up. Still does, but I have a bad intake. Definitely answered my question. I appreciate it. And once again, you're awesome. I have a 6 liter LQ4 with 862s, truck Norris, Trailblazer SS long tubes. Been wondering how much it made. My fast was 1150, fuel rail was 300, 102 was Phytech. Okay. You ported the fast? Did you disassemble it to do that? When can we expect turbo tests? We've already run the turbo test, but we don't want to release this stuff until we have turbos in stock. Dorman LS2, fast LSXR, both will clear the hood. I don't think the Dormans are cheap anymore either, right? Had to take a call. What did I miss? Nothing. We're just all here still. I was referencing your ultimate intake manifold test. If you compared the Cathedral Fast versus Trailblazer SS, I'll go back and watch again. Yes. Well, I didn't put a comparison in the video between those two. We compared in the video, we compared them all to the stock intake, but I have that. I mean, I have the data, so I can overlay that, Frank. If you want to know what that is, it's quite a bit. So let's see, 6 liter. Okay, I'm in the right spot. LS intake shootout. Final fast, LSXR. Final fast. And then Trailblazer SS, right? So in the fast versus the Trailblazer SS is about 30 horsepower at the top. It's quite a bit. Less through other portions of the curve, and actually the Trailblazer SS might have been better down low than the fast was. Are aftermarket fuel rails beneficial for below 5,000 RPM? No, aftermarket fuel rails would be something you consider not at RPM, but at a given power and fuel flow level. We've made 1,000 horsepower with factory fuel rails, so that's not an issue. I hate spending money on things I already have. I have a really nice boost controller. Drag band, what's going on? Velocity is who makes it. It's a Chinese knockoff. Okay. Fast adds a little torque at the mid-range. I bet it's 5 pounds. The fast did make more peak torque, but not, at least in this test, it made 501 versus 497. Richard Fast has brackets to use Gen 3 and Gen 4 fuel rails. On the LSX RT, I didn't know that you could run factory rails on those manifolds. Blitz, thank you very much. Yeah, I wish I could help you in your pumps. If you're gonna do an in the tank for something like that, it's going to be a multi-pump kind of deal. Probably a triple, I would think. Probably answers 200 questions for 53 likes. Yeah, I know. Sip my old fashioned. There you go. Take it all apart to port it with a rotary tool. Took out the ribs and the plenum. Smooth the transitions. Okay. So you can show Richard how you appreciate him by answering your questions by smashing that like button. When you pick up a stall for a turbo setup, do you pick based on the cam still or the turbo? Well, it's going to be both of those because the stall speed is going to be a function of the torque that you're applying it to in the RPM range where the converter or the stall is working. So if you take a stall converter like on a 5.3, and let's say it's a 2500 stall, and let's say you got it right and it's stalling at 2500. If you put that in a 6-liter or a 383 or a 408 that's now making more torque at that same RPM, the stall speed's going to go up. And so if you put a blower on it or you put a turbo on it where you're making boost at that RPM, you can change the stall speed. LQ4 37 doing a new combination now, are we, Scottish? LQ4 317 heads, 76, 75. 14.7 pounds is the main goal for daily use. You can get, I don't ever, I hesitate to, I don't think you should be looking at it in terms of boost. You should be looking at it in terms of power output. And then you should be looking at it in terms of power output and how long you're going to be using that power output. How long are you going to be applying that? You can run 14 pounds on a cammed LQ4, and let's say you're making 1,000 horsepower. Lots of guys run 1,000 horsepower stock rods and pistons in it, particularly Gen 4 stuff, as long as you have ring gap in it. But if you have it all apart, you're building a motor, you just put rods and pistons in it. Sweet deal it'll be for the Turbo 5.3 if you decide to run it. Having intermittent running out of fuel to the carburetor. I had to put back and gauge the feed line between the pump and the tank. I'm seeing 2 to 4 inches of vacuum. Maybe the gas tank. Does the gas tank not have enough vent on it? I did not think the fast was worth 30 horsepower at the top. That's a bunch. I didn't know if it's worth the extra. I don't know if it's worth the extra horsepower. Yeah, because it's not in a really long RPM range. The fast is better from 5,500 out to, we ran it out to 7,200. And then from 4,600 to about 5,500 where they start separating, it's almost the same. And then below that, I think that the Trailblazer SS is better. Dorman LS2s are no longer cheap. No, they suffered the richer older tax. Dang, sorry guys. I saw and ordered the Truck Plus cam. There we go. Thank you very much. You can run factory style fuel rails on the LSXR, but they're still aftermarket. I'm confused. Factory style fuel rails on the LSXR, but they're still aftermarket. The factory LS1 fuel rail is too small. Okay. LY6 board to 4065. Truck Norris 243, Trailblazer SS, headers, better staying Cathedral or going Recport. Well, it sounds like you have 243 heads on it already, right? If you're talking about stock heads, the stock Recport heads flow more and make more power than a stock Cathedral port head. Would BTR be considered old tech? Got a CTSV LSA considering BTR versus Matt's custom. I don't know what you mean by BTR considered old tech. They're on the cutting edge of camshaft technology right now for LS stuff. So I don't know. I don't understand the old tech thing. When I bought my converter, I asked what RPM is for nitrous or blower or turbo. The fast OEM fuel rail is OEM style. It looks like a factory rail setup. It just has factory parts. We have to get Richard's YouTube channel in the 1% so we can get all Hollywood on us. We're live. It's $5 for me to answer your question. Some of the questions will be more than $5. That's a $10 question. What are your thoughts on 871s using short, low style intakes and 2.4 volts? I don't. Do you have a question that you want to ask about that? So just ask the question about it. I have videos up on running those root style blowers on LSs, and they do the same thing that they do on every other motor. If you have a good motor and you put a blower on it, it becomes obviously a better motor. I think the screen in the tank is getting plugged internally. Yeah, that could be possible. What size stall for a Truck Plus cam on a 6-liter? I think 2,500 gets you there. Does the LS3 intake insulator top make any difference? Does it help air with heat soak? Curious why they went to this design. I don't know what an insulator top is. Are you talking about the cap that they put over it? Part number is 146030. Kit is the part number to run Gen 3 rails on the LSXRT. Okay, I'll take a look at that. I just am not familiar with that. We always ran the billet rails that they send with the fast stuff. Great deal. Now he's running 799 heads on LQ9 flat tops with headers compared to the video, 4% more for 9.7 to 10.7. Oh, are you talking about, that's a static compression change then, right? At your test 463, that's 19 more horsepower, that's 484. It seems like whatever math the math that you're using there would give you that. It's a heat shield under the intake. I thought that factory LS3s had they had the sound deadening material underneath them. Are we not talking about a factory one? Ukraine, what's going on? I literally went out to my parts room to put my eyes on them. So we're taking on the intake manifold, you're taking an aluminum set of heads, an aluminum block, and putting some sort of is the tray a composite one, or is it metal one like an aluminum or something, and trying to heat shield it from stopping heat from going into the composite manifold? I'd like to see a dyno test of that. The upper cover, I don't think is for, I think is a visual thing. BTR, LS1 stage 3, TA heads, fast, 11-to-1, 1.8 rockers, good for 500 wheel horsepower on a stock bottom mount LS1. I don't know. I don't know that that's a 600 horsepower combination. I wouldn't think so. Maybe on a stick car that you had if you throw some tricks at it, like an electric water pump and stuff. I don't think that we had to run a lot different intake manifold to get to, and I don't think a stage 3 NA cam is big enough for that. Installed on a Golf 4, 1.4 liter MPI LPG plus variator of ignition angle. Okay. You run LPG in it? I can't do $5. Thanks, Bill. That'll come in handy. I'm actually going to meet somebody for drinks tonight. No, Scott, the thoughts things are fine. I just know that in the question that there's something else, because what's going to happen is they're going to ask that question, and then I'm going to answer, and they're going to go, well, what I meant was, and then they're going to ask the question. I'm just like, just ask the question to begin with. I always recommend Richard's videos and Joe Simpson's. I don't understand why Richard doesn't have more views. It's probably me. It's probably a personality thing. They just don't like me. Propane, butane, gas pumps for generations. Okay, cool. 105 octane. That's good. That's good for boost, man. Thanks for the take on horsepower. I'm excited to see what it puts down. What your thoughts means they want you to answer so they can tell you why you're wrong. It's kind of that, yeah. 6-speed manual will definitely help with that situation. And then if you could not have giant tires on it and stuff, and have a carbon fiber drive shaft and all that, that will definitely help. So you got 1 more minute. You recommend a different lifter for the 6.2 because I'm going to order some from your website, but 6.2 is not listed on lifters. It's the same. That LS7 lifter is what works on all the LS stuff. Definitely not your personality. I think a lot of people would disagree with that. Same. Got all my buddies watching. That's good, man. 1 minute warning. That's right, Scott. That's right. Richard, what makes more power, E85 or methanol? I would guess methanol does. That's what I would put my money on if I was a betting man. I have not run methanol, which is another thing on the to-do list. Have you noticed that blowers like more timing than turbos? I have seen that, and particularly where we've seen that is on like big block stuff. When I've run big block stuff with Steve, he's like, just put 30 in it. It's fine. I'm like, we would never run 30 degrees on turbos on a big block. And he's like, yeah, but for the blowers, everybody runs 30 degrees. We have Mazda Miata. I like those. I've made a lot of manifolds for Miatas, actually. Mark 1 1.6, went to install a V8, but in Ukraine, there are no normal inexpensive V8s for sale. I've driven V8 Miatas. We drove one in the Silver State, and it was a lot of fun. It was diabolical, but it was a lot of fun. Stang, thank you very much. Do you gap radium plugs differently for boost? No, we put 18 or 19 thousandths in them in every plug that we do. We know that fires, and we know that it makes power and stuff, so we do that. Do they make a carbon fiber drive shaft for a 6,000-pound van? It's just big and beefy. Thoughts on 871 LS3 using low short intake manifolds. That's typical of blower stuff. 240, 150 throttle bodies. That doesn't matter. I have 8 injectors above the blower. What about 4 injectors in the runners below as well for individual cylinder trim? Yeah, if you think that there's going to be an issue with cylinder trim, honestly, with the short runner manifolds, it's probably better in individual cylinder distribution with that blower on there, as long as you're injecting, you know, all the way across like the entry of the blower on the top side, as long as you're injecting fuel all the way across there. I think you'll probably be okay depending on what the opening looks like relative to the port spacing. But if you can put injectors down there, you need to have some on top. And then if you could put some on bottom and do individual cylinder trims, if you needed that, that would be ideal. We've run methanol on small engines. Yeah, V8 Miata. It was fun. We ran a 302 in it, but we ran an iron-headed one. And so an aluminum LS in it would have been awesome. Methanol is a step above E85 and E90. Are you going to do any pulls with the Jeep M12? I don't know what that is. Or M122 supercharged on the LS. Well, we did the Ford blower on there. Diabolical. It was. With handling characteristics that could be best described as diabolical. For reference, I had a 383 LS1 205s, 90 millimeter, both touched up by Tony Mammo. Cook's headers, 228 cam, 480 wheel horsepower. That's a lot. That's a lot for that size cam. And on that note, it is time to go, but thank you guys all for showing up. And if I can get back tonight, I don't know what time we're going to be done with stuff. I might come back on tonight, but make sure if you have not, please go check out the video where we did this comparison of the Trailblazer SS and the truck manifold. And then also make sure to check out richardholdenperformance.com. And if I can't see you tonight, I will see you all tomorrow.